Hello, and welcome back to Date with the Divas. We aspire to bring you quality and engaging content regarding hot topics, your favorite celebrities, fashion, and all that. Everything in this video is alleged and presented in the most biased and opinionated way. We want you, our loyal subscribers, to jump down in those comments and share your opinions. If you haven't subscribed, please click on that subscribe button, like our videos, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Date with the Divas, and on Twitter as Date W the Divas. So now let me introduce you to the Divas. We have Ms. Antrice.
Cheers, divas.
We have Ms. Marnita.
Cheers.
And we have Ms. Alicia.
Hello.
And we have Ms. Lavelle.
Ching ching. Good evening, divas.
Ms. Lava.
Good evening.
Michelle.
Cheers.
And last but not least, we have Marilyn.
Evening, divas.
And oh, I forgot me, Joe. So, Ms. Antrice, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Our first topic tonight is on Taylor Swift. In addition to dropping her 10th studio album, Midnights, Taylor Swift also released 2 celebrity-filled videos for the songs Antihero and Bejeweled. While the album and the videos were met with praise from Swifties on social media, there was quite a bit of criticism on the internet regarding a controversial scene in the Antihero video. So basically, in the Antihero video, Taylor is in her apartment. It looks like it's late at night, and she has an alter ego that's following her around, reflecting her dark thoughts and, those negative ideas that we think about when we're alone late at night. Well, the controversy comes in a scene where Taylor is seen weighing herself. And on the scale, instead of the number, it says the word fat. So people jumped online and quickly accused Taylor of being fat phobic and of promoting fat phobic ideas. So we have some tweets that we can share with you to show what's been happening. We have Spooky Augie, who wrote, "One criticism of Taylor Swift's music video is that you don't need to be fat phobic in your description of your body image. It isn't bad to be fat, and her having the scale say fat is a radical simplification of eating disorders, especially when fat people have EDs, eating disorders too." So Taylor, being responsive and socially responsible, removed the scene. So she didn't remove the scene, she removed the word fat from the scene. So you can still see her weighing herself, but you just don't see that word there. And so there were people who were supportive of Taylor because she has talked about having eating disorders of her own, but the conversation about the image continued online. So we see Taylor Swift remove the close-up of the scale saying fat in the Antihero music video on Apple Music. It got across her point just as well, with it only showing her standing on the scale and being judged. This version does it without harming fat folk in the process, with the applause. #Midnights. I think editing out the word fat was the perfect example of how we balance talking about eating disorders and fat phobia. Taylor didn't remove the entire scene. That would be an entirely different conversation. She removed a brief clip that many found hurtful. In my opinion, the message remains. So divas, what do we think? Was it fat phobic to include the word fat on the scale? Is just saying fat phobic now?
I'm not sure. I was interested in this topic because I've been hearing this word fat phobic, and I was like, okay, what does this actually mean? I'm someone who my weight has gone up and down. I didn't see a problem with it. I did not see the video before she removed the word fat. I just read about it, and in seeing the whole video, I was like, it's talking about her own insecurities. So I don't think including the word fat was fat phobic. I think it was just her saying, her putting in visually what one of her insecurities are. She also talks about her insecurity with being tall, her insecurity with only being loved for her money is also included in the video. So I just thought it was one of many insecurities for her and not meant to harm anyone else.
I think she's just being honest. This is her true self. This is her story. And I don't think she meant any disrespect to her, to anyone, to any of her followers. She said that this was her favorite song, and that it really dealt in depth to her insecurities, which Marnita referenced
It
to.
does. Yeah.
I agree with Marnita and Lavelle. I don't think it's fat phobic. I think for me, it was actually quite illustrative of the damage of fat phobia, or fat phobic fat phobic society. She has these insecurities because we put so much stress on how much people, weigh, and of course, magazine covers and all that other stuff. So I think it speaks more to the damage of the mental health of people, particularly women. So I think it actually goes a long way to have this discussion. I mean, look, we're talking about it now.
Do you guys think, though, it has something to do with the fact that Taylor Swift is clearly a tall, thin woman? And so I think people get sensitive when thin people talk about seeming fat or feeling fat. It just seems like that goes over, that lands differently. I think if maybe Lizzo got on the scale and it said fat, I don't know. Do you think people would have received that differently?
I totally see your
Chantrice,
point.
I was gonna say, I think if it was somebody who was heavier, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But because she is small in society's viewpoint, regardless of what she thinks, and she said that that's why they're having issues with the word fat. I do respect the fact that she listened, and even though that wasn't her intent of being fat phobic, she addressed the issue very quickly. And I still respect the fact that she left in the scale, because that is a theory for that. I have been, like Marnie, you said, up and down with my weight. And even at my smallest, where there's no way I could have been considered fat, I thought myself fat. So I can see that being in her head as well. And I believe she also has had eating disorders, and that's, that she's addressed previously. So she still could see herself as fat, even though she's very thin.
I agree with you, Marilyn. I think it's all about her perception of herself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
And people
there's
become
nothing
selfish.
anybody can do with it. That's what exactly.
People become selfish and think that because that the image is of thin, that she cannot think of herself that way. And how could she use that word when she's just so thin? Whereas in her mind, she may have that perception. So it's like you don't want to take it away from her. But at the same token, I commend her for coming out and doing it, but also commend her for being sensitive to society and not removing the scene and removing the word. So
Agreed.
But we think she did the right thing by removing the word, or do you guys think we're getting a little bit sensitive?
I think we get a little bit.
Go, Lisa.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think we're getting a little bit sensitive because I feel like everyone is policing her experience, policing her life. They think just because she's famous and she has a lot of money, that she doesn't have any mental health issues, when we all know that that's not the case. Having money and fame does not solve mental health problems. And the pressure of being a famous person does lie within your weight, but not if you're extremely skinny. If you're too skinny, then they talk about you being too skinny. If you're too big, then they talk about you being too big. So it's like you can't win. And we all know that people in the music industry always have their image sculpted one way or another, from the executives, people, from publicists and things like that. They're always having to be on covers of magazines. If they have like a little pooch, oh, they're pregnant now. They can't just have like a little stomach, So I just feel like they're kind of devaluing her own personal experience. Like, she's being brave, in my opinion, by exposing that. It's bravery to expose the things that have been haunting you for years, and you've overcome them. You know what I mean? And I think they kind of overlooked that part in the whole video, because the whole video was her beating her own self down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of proves her point to the video. It's all my fault. And everyone is blaming her for fat phobia now too. So it's all her fault too. She caused fat phobia,
I get, and that's the sad part with being a celebrity, then you're required to carry this huge burden, and you kind of get negated. Your own feelings end up getting negated because you are of this social status, of this importance. So therefore your feelings don't matter. You got to think about, but that's what life is. You have to think about the bigger picture. It's more than just you. It's about everybody and how everybody else feels.
Yeah.
I just wish she had left it in. It's her truth. She's the artist, and I don't know.
This is, if this might have been, it was like, 10, 20 years ago, maybe people have been like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just the climate that we are in right now. There's so many sensitive issues, topics, people's feelings to be, discussed or picked apart, pointed out. So I think it's just the season we are in at this time.
All right, well, drop down in the comments and let us know what you think. Is it fat phobic to call yourself fat? And should Taylor have left the word in, left her video the way she made it? Or do you think she was right to remove the offensive language?
But she used PHAT fat.
Yeah.
No, that's not a different meaning. That's a different word.
Right.
Wait, we got to tell the people what that means.
Pretty hot and tempting.
Okay, so we're
Anybody don't
moving
know.
on to the Bravo universe, where there's always a controversy. But this one
Absolutely.
involves the ringmaster himself, Andy Cohen. So last week, we had the final installment of the season 12 reunion, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. The ladies look lovely, as they always do. The Beverly Hills ladies bring it like no other franchise, in my opinion. This was a very tense reunion, as most of these gatherings generally are. But this time, a major source of controversy came from an exchange that took place between the ladies and Andy Cohen himself, the host of the reunion and the executive producer of the show. So basically, in the promos leading up to the premiere of the season, Garcelle Beauvais wrote a book, and she was promoting her book in addition to promoting the show. And she, on her Instagram, put a clip of the upcoming season where she was reading Erica Jane, another cast member. Erica Jane saw the clip on Garcelle's Instagram where she was being read for filth. And in response, she posted a picture of Garcelle's book in the trash. Here we have the post. Garcelle, let me try to read it, put my glasses on. Even though you unfollowed me, I'm sure you'll see this. Kiss. So during the reunion, this came up. Andy asked Erica about throwing Garcelle's book in the trash. Erica's response was that it wasn't actually her that did it. It was Lisa Rinna who did it. So Lisa Rinna owned up to being the person who threw the book in the trash, but she took a private picture and sent it in a group text that Garcelle is not a part of, because there's a clique in Beverly Hills. They have their own group chat.
Click.
Surprise, surprise.
Lisa Rinna sent the picture to the group chat. Erica Jane then posted it. And funnily enough, she got skewered on Instagram for her recycling habits. Because if you look back at the previous picture, there was some recycling that needed to be done. So Erica Jane actually came under fire for this photograph, not for what she did to Garcelle, but for not recycling. So during the reunion, Andy chose to focus on that. And he really made an issue of the fact that Erica Jane took the hit for not recycling. And as they went to commercial break, he's joking with Lisa about her recycling habits, and then he's commending Erica Jane for being such a great friend that she didn't rat out Lisa Rinna and she took the hits. But the camera panned to Garcelle and showed that she was really upset watching Andy Cohen, who was essentially her boss, kiki with these mean girls when she was, and he just wasn't recognizing how upset she was, but the fans recognized it. And the fans got on social media and ripped Andy Cohen a new one. and in many ways demanded a public apology. And so we have a couple of those tweets, if you can see. I hate how much of the conversation around Erica posting Garcelle's book in the trash and it actually being Renna who threw it away was centered on Renna not recycling correctly and not how disrespectful it was that she threw Garcelle's book in the trash. Now, whether you're team Garcelle or team Erica Renna, the way they acted about Garcelle's book was 100% mean-spirited and bullying, particularly giggling over it in a separate group chat. So immediately after the show aired, fans remained in a tizzy and demanded that Andy Cohen issue a public apology. And so eventually Andy did issue an apology. And let's hear it. Let's hear from Mr. Cohen himself.
Yeah, and I really need to sincerely apologize, not only for diverting the topic, but for not returning, even worse, to the serious conversation that was at hand. And, John, you and I have talked about this off air a lot. I have deep admiration for Garcelle. She and I had a really good, productive conversation last Thursday, and I should have been more in tune with her feelings. So I just wanted to say that because I've been logging in and I get it.
That clip comes from Sirius XM's Radio Andy, which was posted by Queens of Bravo's Twitter account. So Divas, was Andy Cohen's apology to Garcelle sincere, or was he simply pandering to the audience? What do we think?
Pandering to the audience. I'm sorry, I don't even
Especially
watch the
Gotti.
show, but just, yeah, that was not sincere at all. He was just trying to cover his butt because of all the backlash he's getting.
Yeah.
My personal opinion.
Yeah, I watched that episode too, and that moment was horrible to watch. It was like uncomfortable for me to watch it. I was uncomfortable with her. I was like, wow.
He was afraid of the backlash from the public.
Well, Garcelle is a fan favorite. She's kind of, the people say Lisa Rinna and Kyle Richards are his favorites on the show, but Garcelle has really emerged. In fact, I think she's nominated for a People's Choice Award for Best Reality TV Star this year. So, I mean, Andy was under pressure to address this. I don't think...
Yeah, here's a couple more tweets, just in case. Yeah. We're talking about, I can't believe it that the ladies of our HOBH cast were bullying Garcelle. Actually, Andy included and got away with it. I think he got away with it too. What we all need to do is go and buy Garcelle's book. We need to show these bullying hags that we got her back. Let's use this opportunity to support Garcelle. Let's turn something bad into good.
So, there are people who feel like Andy has gotten a little too close to the ladies and that he needs to be replaced as the host of these reunions.
Even on a couple of other show reunions, he's either half checked out or he doesn't ask the intense questions that audience members would like to know. He's letting certain people skate with doing such horrible behavior. It's like, come on now. So it's like he doesn't even want to do his job anymore half the time.
I saw that a tweet saying that he should be replaced as like the reunion host, but I feel like anybody who at this point, Beverly Hills Housewives has been on for how long, Antrese, do you know?
This was their 12th season. So
12 seasons. I think anybody who is hosting that reunion for so many seasons, or even just watching the show, they're gonna have some kind of bias. So like, I think, okay, yeah, you get a new host next year, maybe they don't have a bias, or maybe they're only rooting for who they like on the show or whatever. But as that relationship grows, it's going to come through. Like Andy, in addition to being their boss and executive producer, he has a personal relationship with them. Like am I mistaken, or did one of the Beverly Hills Housewives or some of the Beverly Hills Housewives throw his baby shower?
Yeah, they did. You're right.
Oh no, it was all the OGs from various cities.
Yeah, so it's like you've grown a person, and that happens in offices too, unfortunately.
But
there's a boss and they want to try to stay neutral, but sometimes depending on the size of your office and what goes on, there's that you have the favorites. So I think even if he's replaced as the host, they're still going to be a favorite.
I think he failed to realize his responsibility as a host during this racial climate. You know that with everything that's going on, that's not the first show. There's been problems with the Real Housewives of New York. There's been problems with Vanderpump Rules because of these racial tension. Everybody needs to be sensitive. And he, knowing of everything, being privileged to all the info regarding those franchises, that he needs to be a little bit more sensitive. He needs to do his homework.
Not just that, friendship aside, he's working at this point. This is your job.
Right.
So
right. If you can't do your job properly, time to get replaced. Like just be in the background. Your executive producer, just be in the background, you know? Yeah.
You know, I did see some people posting like something about like maybe there should be like some guest hosts sometimes to kind of keep it. But, you know, I mean, we also have to think about that this is a show, not just this franchise, but all these type of realities and things like this. Why do we watch it? We watch it for the drama. If everything was happy-go-lucky, we'd be watching something else, like you know, some other show or whatever. But that's basically the point of it, you know. And I started to think, well, do you think? And maybe I don't want to interrupt the questions that are going through, but do you think that maybe too that was something in the back of his head, but he was trying to like push it aside and try and buff it out with, you know, oh, this is, you know, joke about the recycling, and because it was such a bad thing that they put it in the trash
to like cut the tension. You mean like,
yeah,
like, oh, let's just ignore it. And
but like you said, the show's about drama. Other reunion shows, he works on the tension. He lets the
Yeah,
ladies go back and forth arguing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was also a portion of Garcelle's book that talked about Lisa Rinna's daughter.
Yes.
And that's what caused
Lisa threw it in the trash.
Right. But Garcelle had removed that portion from the final book.
Granted. So I think that was Lisa's way of just still getting it to be spoken about, you know, to say, okay, well, this is what happened and I'm getting you back. However, now I'm going to kind of flip it just a little bit. Now, if during the earlier part of the season, Erica, Garcelle, and I believe it was Crystal, that they were having a conversation, the three of them. And Garcelle took that conversation that was with the three of them, and she kind of revealed that private conversation to the other women. And Erica was really upset about that.
Oh, you're talking about last season?
Yeah, last season, that she was really upset about that. Now, you know, I don't know what was the cause of Garcelle feeling, if you're writing a memoir, why are you putting Lisa Rinna's daughter?
I think because it was an issue 2 seasons ago, Garcelle's first season, she asked Lisa Rinna, your daughter has an eating disorder. Do you think it's a great idea for you to be dancing in your underwear, you know, skinny as you are, on Instagram when you have a daughter that's struggling with an eating disorder? And that was something that played out on the show. And so Garcelle in her book was just referencing this issue that she dealt with Lisa Rinna in regards to her daughter on the show. That's how she spoke about it in the book. All that was discussed in the reunion. And then, like Marnita said, she agreed to take it out of the second printing of the book.
Mm-hmm.
That was
all the audios.
Yeah, that was, but to Lisa's credit, Lisa didn't post that picture. She sent it to a private text, and Erica is the one who put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even still, she didn't post that picture, but she took the picture of what she did and sent it to do whatever she was with her buddies, you know, and it came out. So we can't discredit.
No, I mean, the bad taste left in my mouth was Andy Cohen commiserating with the Mean Girls, which is what they've been labeled by the audience. The majority of the audience feels that clique is a group of mean girls. So to see Andy Cohen, who's supposed to speak for people, commiserating with them and Garcelle looking devastated like that. That just left a really bad taste.
Yeah, because as a host, he's supposed to like dive into the drama or at least dig in deeper, not just change the subject to stupid recycling. Like, come on now. Like he was on that topic for all of a minute and a half before he talked about recycling for 10 minutes. It's like, really?
I mean, I feel, just full disclosure, I don't watch the Housewives, any of them, and I only watched this clip so that I could participate in this discussion. But I felt like the serious topic that was being discussed, and with Garcelle and Lisa and Erica, had already organically transitioned to what the cattiness of Erica and Lisa were doing with, like sharing it in a private chat that wasn't with Garcelle. And I think that Andy transitioned because he didn't want it to go down that road. And so he deflected and chose this whole recycling thing because he didn't want them to be viewed more of Mean Girls, because it really was headed down that path, at least from my perspective, of someone just watching freshly this clip.
And the audience caught it. He was protecting the Mean Girls, trying to.
Yeah, and he was called out for it. He was called out for it.
Well, drop down in the comments and let us know. Is it time for Andy Cohen to hang up his hat and give these hosting duties to someone else? Do you think he's doing a great job? Was Garcelle owed an apology? And do you think the apology was genuine? But we're going to move on to our final topic of the night, which involves Ashanti and Irv Gotti. Irv Gotti, who's busy promoting a documentary about his music label on BET, which is called Murder Inc., has been talking a lot about his relationship with pop princess Ashanti, who was signed to his label at the height of the label's success. But instead of talking about the successes and the magical musical partnership that the two of them had, Irv has decided to disclose that they had a sexual relationship 20 whole years ago. It should be noted that in addition to being Ashanti's boss, Irv Gotti was 10 years older than her when these relations were going on, and he was married at the time. So there was, as Irv's stories were circling about, there was a lot of pressure on Ashanti to come out and respond and say something. And she did go on Angela Martinez's podcast last week, and she did respond. When asked about their alleged relationship, Ashanti said, "Let's clear this up. We dealt with each other. But was Irv my boyfriend? Was I his girlfriend? Never. Irv had several girlfriends, so I'm a little confused by the label and the description." Ashanti did go on to say that the relationship was very controlling and that there was an element where she felt like if she said no to him, that there would be repercussions to her career in terms of being able to record and things like that. And it's clear that Mr. Gotti's bitter that Ashanti left the label when it was under fire, and that he considers her disloyal in light of the fact that he created her. Those are words that he likes to use to describe their relationship. When asked why she thinks Irv has chosen to talk about their personal relationship 20 years later, Ashanti went on to say in her interview with Angela, "I definitely feel like manipulation played a heavy part into me and Irv's situation. I definitely had a genuine love for Irv because he 100% helped to change my life. I feel like Irv is just hurt and he doesn't know where to place his hurt and doesn't know how to channel it as a man. It's sad." End quote. I think so too. But Divas, why is Irv Gotti still so angry with Ashanti and insistent on talking about their sexual past of 20 years ago? What is going on?
So I've watched a little bit of both sides of the stories. I watched Ashanti's interview first after hearing a lot about Irv Gotti's. And then I watched parts of his Drink Champs interview Shout out to whoever put the timestamps in the Drink Champs comments. You're the real MVP. So I didn't have to watch
Thank
2 hours
you.
and 45 minutes of
Thank
it. And I watched episode 3
That
of the
3-hour
documentary.
interview.
Yeah. And so I watched episode 3 of the documentary also because that was more about Ashanti. I don't know. At first I was like, okay, maybe it is his ego. I think it's partially ego, but he said in the documentary a couple times, I was in love with Ashanti. So I think he is like hurt that
In
like
his
it didn't
feelings.
work out.
If he was so hurt, why did he never get no dang divorce? That's what, come on.
But he was all over the place throughout the whole duration of his marriage to his wife. It was very evident that he could not be faithful.
He told his wife, I'm not going to be faithful to you.
Exactly. He was never faithful.
And this
He
was
never
before Ashanti.
Wow.
Exactly. I think men don't like when
He
women
was,
kind of like move
his
up.
pride was hurt. His
He was
pride
in
was
his
hurt.
feelings.
Yes.
Yeah, she was probably one of the first few women to like diss him at the height of his career. And that's what the whole thing is about. But I made you. I made. No, my mom and daddy did. Thank you. Okay.
And his whole thing too, he mentioned on that Champs video, you know, his main thing is loyalty. And her backing out during that particular time, you know, with their troubles at Murder Inc., her backing away was hurtful to him in terms of her proving her loyalty to them. And when they needed her to, you know, try and get back up and things like this is not what she was trying to do. So
Now,
Yeah.
she said in her Angela Martinez interview that towards the end of the relationship, she started getting involved with Nelly,
Right.
and she decided to go in that direction. And Irv's response was, well, if that's what you want to do, then get on down the road. So she made it seem like he presented that ultimatum to her, that if she was going to go in that direction, he didn't want to work with her anymore.
But then wouldn't let her work with anyone else because it was like, she was like, he told me to side with Dirty A&T, with Nelly's label. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that, you know, because I'm romantically involved with him. But then she later on, she had the opportunity to sign with Dr. Dre. And she said she went to Irv and he tried to like give her some crazy deal that like, oh, okay, if you do sign with somebody else, I forget exactly what she said, but it was like,
Right,
that
some
she didn't want to
outrageous
pay.
percentage. Yeah.
Right. But then when Irv was on Drink Champs, he was like, no, I don't do any dirty deals and this and that. I don't do, like, I give everybody a fair deal and stuff. So I don't know. It was real confusing.
Didn't she also say on Angie Martinez, with Angie Martinez, she also said something to the effect like she was being classified as disloyal, but during the time of, you know, Murder Inc. being on the spotlight in the trial, she was there. She was present for the trial.
And she wasn't supposed to be because she was
filming and
she was jeopardizing her movie contract by leaving Canada because she was not supposed to leave Canada. And she was like, she flew to the trial about 3 times. And Irv specifically, Ashanti talked about this, and Irv talked about it in his Drink Champ interview. He was mad because she wasn't throwing up the M's because he was like, oh, she won't do that. I can't even try to do it. She wasn't throwing up the M's, but she was like, we stopped throwing up the M's because we were on trial. Like she was like, we stopped calling it Murder Inc. So why would I throw up some M's?
But I think also
it's
like
a gang. It's a record company.
But to them but at the same token, to them it was a record label, but to them that was family. Was representation. Yeah. But at the same token, as she said on Angie Martinez, it was just like, I think what happens is she, like she said, it wasn't a relationship. We was just doing what we was doing. And maybe he didn't like the fact that she downplayed it and was just like, you getting this, you making this more than what it was. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you what it was. It was just it wasn't.
Because he was like, no, we live together. I got an apartment.
He was doing too much. And he got caught in his feelings. And she was just like, listen, first of all, even if that's what it was, why are you putting my business on Front Street though? 20 years later, I'm gonna need you to sit down, sit down and shut up.
So Divas, I have a question.
Okay.
Irv was married, 10 years older, and her boss. I think Ashanti was 20 when this was going on. Was he a powerful man taking advantage, or was she an ambitious young woman who was using the fact that this powerful man was attracted to her to further her career?
I think a little of both.
Yes.
I think a little of both, because the way
I think she
he's-
had to do what she had to do to survive, though. I mean, was she
She wasn't surviving. She was thriving. She wasn't just
She
surviving.
was thriving.
Okay.
I mean, because she knew he had other girlfriends, but the way he described in the Murder Inc. documentary, he was like, the way the relationship started was they was at the studio late one night and he was like, I'll take you home. And he was like, yeah, when we got to her house, you know, I just grabbed her, mwah, kissed her and grabbed her booty. And it was like,
How did she,
okay,
what
sir.
did you say with Marnita?
You know, and I was like, okay, sir, you know, what about consent? But you know, that was what, the 90s, 2000s.
But you know, I do believe part of this, you know, like there's, you know, his truth, her truth, and the truth. But I do believe that a lot of this is he's a talker. And he, even when he's talking, it's like he could be telling the truth about various things, but I do believe when he's talking to, he's performing. This is, you know,
Embellishing.
and so he's, you know, giving it out there. And then, you know, I mean, throughout his, even his on his documentary, people said that, you know, he talks a little too much sometimes. Even when he was on that Champs thing, they had, you know, telling him, you know, pet it, you know. Anything, you know. But, so I think, you know, you're already talking, you're caught in your feelings, and then you just kind of have, you know, a little bit of that diarrhea of the mouth, and a mixture of both was coming out, you know. And
I don't understand this having feelings 20 whole years later.
I think it's also part of wanting attention right now, because ain't nobody thinking
Well,
about
he's-
Irv Gotti or Murder Inc. at
Murder
this
Inc.
point. He's trying to be relevant. Ashanti got new albums coming out. Go check it out.
You got a
And
new
he's
movie
trying to
coming
stay
out?
relevant. Ashanti has some new songs out.
Exactly.
well, he was continually promoting his BET.
Yeah, and like you said,
Documentary.
Joanne, he was telling a
Girl,
story. He
BET.
was,
Okay, everybody's on BET but us. Okay, we're next on the next week. I'm just kidding.
he was telling the story. Hey, it got me to watch episode 1 and episode 3.
Okay, well, drop down in the comments and let us know what you think. Was Irv taken advantage of, or was he the predator in the situation? And should he keep his mouth shut 20 years later? That's it for me, man.
Well, it's about that time. What do we say, everyone?
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you
See
next
you
time.
guys next
Don't
time.
forget to like and subscribe.